The courtroom in Richmond, Virginia, was a pressure cooker of stunned gasps and electric silence, the air thick with the scent of old varnish and nervous sweat. As Jamal Carter, a 17-year-old black boy in a faded gray jacket, stood at the defendant's table. His hands clutched a small, tarnished pocket watch his grandfather's prized heirloom, a relic from a man crushed by the system, and his voice cut through the chaos, steady and unshaken as he dropped a bombshell. "You're missing a file, the dashcam footage that proves I wasn't there, doesn't it?" Prosecutor Edward Langston, a wiry man with a smug grin and a crisp suit, froze mid-stride, his legal pad slipping from his grasp to thud against the floor, scattering papers like fallen leaves. The jury jolted upright, their eyes widening as Judge Margaret Henshaw slammed her gavel, her stern face twitching with disbelief, her silver hair trembling under the courtroom's harsh lights. "You're out of line, Mr. Carter. Prove it, or sit down." Langston recovered, his smirk twisting into a sneer as he crossed his arms, his voice dripping with scorn. "This kid's grasping at straws. It's laughable, Your Honor." But the gallery bailiffs whispering, spectators shifting, fell silent, their gazes locking on Jamal as he stood tall, the pocket watch glinting faintly in his grip. Moments ago, Langston had smirked through Jamal's defense, tearing into him with a predator's glee, but now that smirk wavered, replaced by a flicker of unease, as Jamal's revelation landed like a thunderclap. Just minutes earlier, Langston had paced before the jury, painting Jamal as a drug dealer caught fleeing a stash house, resisting arrest with a wild struggle, another lost soul from the streets. The jury had leaned into his narrative, their nods mirroring his confidence. But now they stared, doubt creeping into their faces as Jamal's words shook the room, his quiet precision a shock no one saw coming. Henshaw leaned forward, her glasses slipping, her tone sharp with irritation and curiosity. "You'd better have something concrete, young man, or this ends now." Jamal nodded, his jaw tight, his fingers tightening around the pocket watch as a quiet fire burned in his dark eyes. "I'm not here to lose, Your Honor. I'm here for my granddad, for what they took from him." Langston chuckled, a harsh, grating sound as he waved a dismissive hand. "He's stalling with fairy tales, pathetic." But the jury's eyes shifted, intrigue replacing their earlier certainty, a woman in the front row clutching her pen as if poised to strike. The room tilted, something seismic was breaking, and they all felt it ripple through the air like a shockwave. Jamal wasn't just a defendant. He was a force, armed with a pocket watch and a truth no one expected. Langston's smirk hung by a thread, Henshaw's patience frayed, and the boy they'd pegged as guilty was about to unravel everything. The watch ticked softly, a quiet promise from a past he refused to let die. The trial had been a brutal grind before Jamal's revelation, a cold, relentless machine designed to crush him beneath its weight with ruthless precision. Earlier that morning, the Richmond courtroom had buzzed with the hum of routine, as Prosecutor Edward Langston laid out his case with the confidence of a hunter circling a wounded deer. On September 8th, police raided a suspected stash house in the city's east. Pills and cash scattered across a dingy basement, a chase ending with Jamal nabbed 2 blocks away, allegedly fleeing with a baggie of drugs, resisting arrest with a struggle that left an officer's arm scratched. "He's a dealer," Langston had declared, pacing before the jury with a wiry, predatory swagger, his crisp suit catching the light as he flashed photos of the stash and a blurry figure in a gray jacket. Caught running, fighting cops, a clear menace to this community. Jamal sat through the barrage, his public defender, Lisa Grant, scribbling notes. Beside him, her presence a formality had barely acknowledged, her nervous fidgeting a stark contrast to his calm resolve. Lisa was overworked, her cheap blazer faded, her voice faltering as she tried to counter, her hands trembling under Langston's onslaught. "The evidence is shaky," Shed muttered, her words lost in the prosecutor's barrage, but Langston pounced like a fox on a rabbit. "Shaky? We've got drugs in his bag, an officer's testimony, and a kid who bolted when they closed in." The jury smirked, their eyes flicking to Jamal's faded gray jacket, the frayed cuffs brushing his wrists, his scuffed sneakers tapping faintly against the floor. Another black boy from the wrong side of town, guilty in their minds before proof was weighed. Judge Margaret Henshaw tapped her pen against the bench, her stern face etched with impatience as she cut Lisa off mid-sentence with a sharp glare that carried a hint of boredom. "Move it along, Miss Grant, let's not drag this out," Shed said, her voice clipped as she nodded to Langston, her silver hair glinting under the dim lights, her patience thinning with every word. But there were cracks, sharp, jagged fissures slicing through the prosecution's case, if anyone cared to look closely. The officer's story wavered, claimed Jamal ran with the baggie, yet no drugs were found on him, only near him. The stash house had multiple exits, and the resistance was Jamal pulling away. When tackled without warning, his voice hoarse as he demanded, "What's this for?" Lisa had tried to poke at these holes. There's no direct link, no clear timeline, but Langston drowned her out with a theatrical scoff, his smirk widening as he turned to the jury with a flourish that commanded the room like a ringmaster. "No link. He's a flight risk. Look at him." Head sneered, gesturing at Jamal like he was trash sullying the space. "Does this boy scream innocent to you?" The gallery chuckled, a low ripple of amusement bouncing off the walls. Henshaw, nodding in agreement as her pen tapped faster, her stern demeanor signaling a case already decided. "Enough stalling, counselor," Shed growled, dismissing Lisa's efforts with a flick of her wrist that carried the weight of inevitability. Jamal's hands stayed folded, the pocket watch his granddad Isaiah's tarnished heirloom resting in his lap like a quiet anchor, its faint ticking a lifeline through the storm. He wasn't just fighting for himself, was fighting for Isaiah, jailed decades ago on a false charge, broken by a system that never cared, dead from despair. "Not me too," Jamal vowed silently, his grip tightening on the watch. "It's cool." Metal, a whisper of defiance against the tide. The defense's turn came as the afternoon sun filtered through the courtrooms. Grimy windows, casting long, jagged shadows across the scuffed wooden floor, the air growing heavy with the scent of dust and tension as the day wore on. Lisa Grant stood, her voice unsteady as she adjusted her notes with shaky hands. The weight of the case pressing down on her slight frame like a boulder she couldn't lift, her faded blazer sagging under the strain of exhaustion. "The defense calls Jamal Carter," her words faltered as Jamal rose, his sneakers scuffing against the floor with a soft, deliberate squeak that silenced the room, his faded gray jacket swaying slightly as he stepped forward with a quiet resolve that rippled through the stale air like a shockwave, his dark eyes steady with purpose. "I'll speak for myself," he said, his tone calm but unyielding, carrying a strength that made Lisa pause, her hands dropping in defeat, her nervous fidgeting stilled by the boy's quiet authority. Lisa blinked, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and panic as she leaned close, her voice a desperate whisper that barely reached Jamal's ears over the hum of the room, her hands clutching her notes like a lifeline slipping through her fingers. "Jamal, you can't, this is crazy." But Jamal shook his head, his gaze unwavering, his jaw set with a resolve that made Lisa falter, her cheap blazer slumping as she stepped back, outmatched by the teen's certainty. "I've seen what lawyers dolos my granddad cause they didn't fight hard enough. In my own shot now." Judge Henshaw's stern frown deepened, her gavel hovering like a threat as she peered down from her bench, her stern features hardening with skepticism, a faint trace of amusement tugging at her lips like she was watching a child play at grown-up stakes, her silver hair catching the dim light as she tilted her head slightly, sizing up the audacity before her. "You're representing yourself, Mr. Carter?" she asked, her voice sharp with incredulity, her earlier impatience now laced with a hint of curiosity masked by disdain. Jamal nodded, stepping to the witness box with a calm that unnerved the room. The pocket watch clutched tightly in his right hand, its tarnished surface glinting faintly as a quiet testament to his granddad's legacy, its faint ticking a heartbeat through the storm. Henshaw started sharp, her tone slicing through the tension like a whip crack, her patience already fraying at the edges like a worn thread stretched thin, her stern voice carrying a weight of dismissal that echoed her earlier haste. "Where were you on September 8th, Mr. Carter?" Jamal leaned into the microphone, his voice clear and resonant, filling the space with an authority that belied his years, his words carrying a weight that seemed to settle into the bones of the room like a stone into still water, his presence steady despite the pressure. "At home, fixing my bike in the yard till I went to grab some food down the street." Langston jumped in, cutting off Henshaw's next question with a venomous edge, his smirk widening as he leaned forward, his wiry frame glinting with mockery. Under the harsh lights, his crisp suit a stark contrast to Jamal's faded jacket. "Fixing a bike? Sweet little yarn, kid. WHYD they find you near that stash, then?" Jamal's eyes narrowed, a flicker of fire sparking behind his steady facade as he met the prosecutor's taunt head-on, his voice steady but edged with defiance that cut through the air like a blade honed by years of watching injustice. "I don't know, maybe cause they wanted me there. Wouldn't be the first time they've pinned it on someone like me." Langston laughed, a harsh, grating sound that echoed off the walls like a hyena's cackle as he turned to the jury with a theatrical flourish, his wiry frame squared with confidence that oozed from his crisp suit like venom from a snake. He's got an excuse for everything, doesn't he? A regular mechanic caught dealing. The gallery snickered. A juror in the back smirked faintly, but Jamal's face remained an unyielding mask of determination, his fingers tightening around the pocket watch as if drawing strength from its tarnished, steady ticking, Isaiah's voice whispering in his mind, "Stay sharp, boy." Henshaw tried again, her patience visibly thinning as she adjusted her glasses. With a sharp flick, her stern voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade through fog, her silver hair framing a face taut with irritation that bordered on disdain, her earlier haste now a quiet undercurrent. "Explain the arrest, then quickly, or we're done here," she growled, her tone a command that brooked no delay. Jamal nodded, his voice steady as he recounted the night, each word laced with a quiet fury that simmered beneath his calm exterior, his grip on the pocket watch tightening as he spoke, the faint ticking a heartbeat that kept him grounded. "Cops rolled up out of nowhere, no lights, no siren, just tackled me 2 blocks from home as I walked back with my food. They slammed me down, tore my bag open, pinned me without a word. I pulled back when they wouldn't say why anyone would have fought that." Langston pounced, his smirk twisting into a sneer as he leaned in, his voice dripping with disdain that oozed like poison from his wiry frame, his crisp suit a mockery of Jamal's faded jacket. "Resisting arrest, just like I said. You really expect us to buy this sob story, kid?" Jamal didn't flinch, his gaze locking onto Langston's with a quiet intensity that made the room hold its breath, his words a precursor to the storm he was about to unleash, his voice steady as he prepared to unravel the case. "I expect you to check the facts, cause I've got more than stories. I've got a missing file that proves your case is built on lies." The snickers faded, a murmur of intrigue rippling through the gallery, the jury's eyes widening as Langston's smirk flickered, but the real blow was yet to come. Langston tried to rally, his voice pitching higher as panic seeped through his cracks, his wiry frame trembling slightly under the courtroom's harsh lights. His crisp suit creasing as he fought to hold his crumbling ground, his smug grin faltering like a mask slipping off a face. "You're no lawyer, kid. Where'd you get that nonsense?" Jamal leaned forward, his tone cold and cutting, each word deliberate as he stared down the prosecutor with a gaze that burned through his smug facade, his voice carrying a quiet power that seemed to grow with every syllable, the pocket watch steady in his hand like a talisman forged from his granddad's fight. "From my granddad taught me to watch the details after they locked him up on a lie, then let him rot till he gave up." He tapped the pocket watch, its tarnished surface a quiet testament to Isaiah's resilience, its faint ticking a rhythm that echoed through the years of loss and grit. "Fourth Amendment, no illegal searches. Where's their warrant for my bag?" The gallery gasped, a sharp intake of breath rippling through the crowd like a gust through dry leaves. Jurors leaning forward as Langston sputtered, his composure fraying at the edges like a worn thread stretched too thin. Langston lunged forward, his voice a desperate bark as he waved a trembling hand, his wiry frame darting between Jamal and the jury, his crisp suit creasing. As he fought to regain control, his smugness unraveling like a spool of thread. "This is irrelevant objection." But Jamal pressed on, his voice rising with a controlled fury that silenced the room, his words echoing off the walls like a drumbeat of truth, his grip on the pocket watch firm as he turned his fire on the case, his granddad's lessons a shield against the scorn. "Fifth Amendment, no punishment without due process. You say I ran from that stash, where's the proof I was even in it? No drugs on me, no witnesses." The courtroom tilted on its axis, the weight of his words sinking in like stones into deep water, the air growing heavier with every passing second, the tension coiling tighter as it gripped the room like a vice. Jurors glared at Langston, a woman in the front row muttering, "No warrant?" under her breath, her brow furrowing as she shot a look at the prosecutor, her pen pausing mid-stroke as doubt took root like a weed. Judge Henshaw pounded her gavel, her face flushing with a mix of irritation and unease, her stern voice straining as she fought to regain control over the rising tide, her silver hair framing a face taut with tension that had replaced her earlier impatience, her earlier haste now a quiet undercurrent of doubt. "Are you alleging misconduct, Mr. Carter?" she demanded, her glasses slipping further as she fixed Jamal with a piercing stare that could have cut through granite, her patience fraying like a worn rope stretched to breaking. Jamal nodded, pulling a folded paper from his jacket, not the twist yet, just a spark to fan the flames, his hand steady despite the chaos brewing around him. His fingers brushing the pocket watch for strength as he held it up, its ticking a quiet pulse of defiance. Officer Tate, 2 write-ups for planting evidence. Same guy who caught me near that stash. The jury buzzed, a man in the second row hissing, "Dirty cop." His voice sharp with indignation, his pen scratching furiously as he glared at Langston, his anger a mirror to the growing storm that swelled in the room, his hands clenching his notepad with a fury that echoed Jamal's own. Langston slammed his table, his voice a desperate bark as he waved a trembling hand, his wiry frame shrinking under the weight of the onslaught, his crisp suit no shield against the tide that threatened to sweep him away. This is a stunt. He's got nothing but fairy tales. But Jamal pressed on, his voice steady and unrelenting, each word a hammer. Strike against the prosecution's crumbling fortress, his grip on the pocket watch tightening as Isaiah's memory fueled his fire, the faint ticking a rhythm that guided him through the lies. Sixth Amendment, I've got a right to a fair trial, not a frame-up. You're missing a file, the dashcam footage that proves I wasn't there, doesn't it? The gallery erupted, a wave of shouts and murmurs crashing through the room like a rising tide, jurors turning on Langston with a fury that drowned out their earlier nods, their faces hardening as they leaned forward in their seats. Gripped by Jamal's words, the room shaking with the weight of his question that hung like a guillotine. Henshaw roared for order, her gavel pounding like a drumbeat against the rising chaos, her stern voice straining to pierce the uproar as she fought to hold the reins, her earlier impatience now a bitter irony that lingered in the air like smoke. Quiet, or he'll clear the room. But Jamal's momentum was unstoppable, his presence swelling with every word as he stood firm, the pocket watch a quiet anchor in his hand, its tarnished surface a testament to his granddad's fight that echoed through the storm, its ticking a steady pulse that cut through the noise. Langston's face twisted in panic, his hands fumbling as he shouted, "He's making this up, your fiction." His voice cracking with desperation, his wiry frame shrinking under Jamal's unflinching stare, his crisp suit a mockery of his fading control. Jamal smirked, a faint, dangerous curve to his lips as he touched the pocket watch again, feeling Isaiah's strength surge through him like a current, his words a prelude to the final blow that would unravel the case entirely. "Check the records, Mr. Langston. I've had years to learn since they took my granddad and left me with this." The room was his now, the jury's anger a wildfire spreading fast, Langston's smugness suffocating under the weight of the truth he wielded like a blade, the storm gathering strength as the missing file loomed like a specter ready to strike. The Richmond courtroom crackled with tension, a tempest brewing beneath the dim hum of overhead lights as Jamal Carter stood at the defendant's table, his faded gray jacket a stark symbol against the polished chaos that swirled around him. The jury's eyes drilled into Officer Tate on the stand, his wiry frame stiffening, his tight jaw twitching under Jamal's relentless gaze, while Prosecutor Edward Langston gripped his podium with trembling hands, his crisp suit creasing, his smug grin faltering under the weight of sweat-slicked panic. "You swore I ran from that stash," Jamal said, his voice steady and piercing, cutting through the thick air like a shard of glass through silk, each word a deliberate strike. "But you never saw me with drugs. Your report's blank on that, isn't it?" Tate shifted, his eyes darting as he stammered, "Two saw a figure." Jamal held up the pocket watch, Isaiah's tarnished heirloom, its faint ticking a quiet pulse, and turned to the jury, his calm masking a fire that blazed in his dark eyes, burning with the weight of years spent studying the system's lies. "A figure, not me. He's got no proof." The gallery buzzed with disbelief, a juror in the front row leaning forward, her lips parting in a silent gasp as she whispered to the woman beside her, her pen pausing mid-stroke, ink smudging slightly under the pressure of her grip. Judge Margaret Henshaw slammed her gavel, the sharp crack reverberating off the wood-paneled walls like a thunderclap, her stern face flushed with irritation, and a flicker of unease that betrayed her earlier impatience, her silver hair trembling under the strain of the moment. "Substantiate that, Mr. Carter, or I'll shut this down." Jamal nodded, his fingers brushing the pocket watch, its faint ticking a quiet echo of his granddad's unyielding spirit. A man had kept time even as the system stole his life away. "Check the arrest log," he said, his tone unwavering as he locked eyes with the judge, his voice carrying a weight that silenced the room's murmurs like a hush falling over a battlefield, steady and commanding. Tate says he nabbed me at 8:20 p.m. near the stash. But the raid call came at 8:002 blocks away. No car, no sprint, how'd I make that? Tate sputtered, his words tripping over themselves in a frantic rush, his wiry frame shrinking as he flailed, his badge glinting mockingly under the lights. 2-minute Jamal cut him off, his voice rising just enough to drown the cops. Faltering excuse, his words sharp as a blade honed by years of watching injustice unfold. You meant to lie, plain and simple. Jurors exchanged glances, a man in the second row scribbling furiously, his pen scratching audibly in the tense hush as ink bled onto the page, his brow furrowed with growing doubt, while a woman's jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing. At Tate with a spark of suspicion that flared into a quiet fury, her fingers clenching her notepad like a lifeline. Langston lunged forward, his voice a desperate bark as he waved his notes like a tattered shield, his wiry frame trembling as he fought to hold ground, his crisp suit creasing under the pressure of his unraveling case. The drugs tie him to the crime, end of story. Jamal didn't flinch, his posture steady as he countered, his words measured but lethal, his grip on the pocket watch firm as if it were a beacon through the storm. No drugs on me. Fifth Amendment says you can't punish without proof. Where's the witness who saw me with them? The room reeled, Langston's notes slipping from his grasp to scatter across the floor like fallen leaves, his wiry frame shaking as he scrambled to regain control, his voice a hollow echo in the growing tempest. This is absurd, he shouted, but the jury wasn't nodding. They glared, their earlier trust splintering like dry wood under a sledgehammer's blow, their faces hardening with suspicion. Jamal stood taller, the pocket watch a silent vow in his hand. They won't break me, Granddad. The evidence was fracturing, cracking under his relentless truth, and Langston's grip was slipping like water through his trembling fingers, the case teetering on the edge of collapse. Langston's voice pitched higher, a frantic edge clawing through his crumbling defenses as he pounded his podium, his wiry frame trembling under the courtroom's harsh lights, his crisp suit creasing as panic seized him like a vice, his smug grin unraveling like threadbare cloth under a storm's pull. He's a dealer. Fight, it's crystal clear. Jamal stepped closer to Tate, his sneakers thudding softly against the worn floor, and reached into his jacket pocket with deliberate calm, pulling out a crumpled grocery receipt, the edges frayed but the ink clear. Hey, race what you didn't see coming, he said, his voice low but razor-sharp, slicing through the prosecutor's bluster like a blade through fog, his dark eyes glinting with a fire forged by years of watching the system's failures. On September 8th, I was at Patel's market buying food for my mom. This proves it. He handed it to the bailiff, a faded receipt, time-stamped 8:02 p.m., signed by the cashier, showing had been blocks from the stash house, a quiet bombshell in his steady hand. The courtroom detonated, a thunderous wave of gasps and shouts crashing through the space like a breaking wall, the air vibrating with the force of the revelation that shook the room to its core. Jurors jolted upright, Langston's face drained to a ghostly pallor, his wiry frame swaying as Judge Henshaw snatched the receipt, her stern eyes scanning it with a deepening scowl, her silver hair trembling with the force of her grip. Her earlier impatience now a bitter jest swallowed by the moment's weight. Why wasn't this submitted earlier? She demanded, her voice sharp with disbelief and frustration, her gavel hovering like a storm ready to strike, her glasses slipping as she glared at Jamal with a mix of awe and irritation. Jamal's gaze hardened, a flicker of pain flashing behind his steady resolve as he stood firm, his voice steady but laced with grief that cut deeper than any blade, his words a testament to years of loss. Because I didn't trust a system that let my granddad die in prison on Aliyah was framed, and they ignored him till he broke. I kept this close, learned that from him. Langston lunged forward, his voice a panicked shriek as he waved a trembling hand, his wiry frame shaking like a reed in a gale, his crisp suit no shield against the tide that threatened to sweep him away. It's fake. He can't. Jamal cut him off, his tone rising with a controlled fury that silenced the room, his words ringing like a clarion call through the chaos, his grip on the pocket watch a lifeline through the storm that battered the prosecution's case. Call Mr. Patel, the owner. Check his security cam. I was paying when that raid went down 2 blocks away. The gallery roared, a juror in the back shouting, he's got proof. His voice thick with indignation, his fist slamming the armrest in a burst of outrage that echoed through the room like a gunshot, his eyes blazing with realization that mirrored the growing fury around him. Henshaw ordered the clerk to verify, her gavel pounding as the room held its breath, the air crackling with anticipation like lightning about to strike, the tension coiling tighter with every tick of the clock that seemed to match the pocket watch's rhythm. Langston paced like a trapped beast, his polished shoes squeaking against the floor, his composure a shredded rag as he muttered under his breath, grasping at threads that slipped away like smoke through his fingers, his wiry frame shrinking under the weight of the moment. 12 minutes later, the clerk returned, her voice trembling as she clutched a printout, her hands shaking under the weight of the revelation, her eyes wide with the gravity of what she held like a torch in the dark. Mr. Patel confirms footage shows him at 8:04. Your Honor, she said, her words a quiet explosion that shattered the silence, her breath catching as she spoke. The jury exploded, a woman leaping to her feet, yelling, "They framed him." Her voice raw with fury, her hands trembling as she pointed at Tate, her eyes burning with betrayal that swept through the room like wildfire. Langston's objection drowned in the chaos, his words lost in a sea of boos and shouts that swelled like a tsunami, his wiry frame shrinking under the onslaught as his case teetered on collapse. This doesn't change, but Jamal wasn't done. He turned to Langston, the pocket watch glinting as he pointed with a steady hand, his voice a quiet thunder that shook the room, its ticking a rhythm that underscored his words like a heartbeat of justice. You're missing a file, the dashcam footage that proves I wasn't there, doesn't it? You had it to pin this on me. The twist landed like a dynamite blast. Jamal wasn't just a boy, he was Isaiah's heir, wielding a missing file to unearth a crypt of corruption, his quiet precision a weapon that broke the case wide open. Tate's testimony buckled, the jury's fury a tidal wave crashing over him, sweeping away every shred of Langston's smug authority in a deafening roar that shook the courtroom to its foundation, the missing file a ghost that unraveled it all. Jamal faced the jury, his voice raw but resolute, carrying a power that filled the courtroom like a rising gale, his faded gray jacket swaying as he stood firm, his presence a beacon amidst the chaos that swirled around him like a tempest unleashed. They peg me guilty 'cause I'm black and from the East End, but this isn't just about me. It's about my granddad, about every soul they've crushed with lies and badges. He held up the pocket watch, its tarnished surface a symbol of defiance, its faint ticking a quiet echo of Isaiah's lost fight, a rhythm that pulsed through the years of injustice like a heartbeat refusing to fade. He taught me to keep time. The Sixth Amendment says you can't use tainted evidence, and I've proved you're missing a file that clears me, he declared, his tone steady yet fierce, his words a legal sword forged from his granddad's lessons. The jurors stared, their outrage boiling over one man's eyes glistening with unshed tears, his hands trembling as he gripped his notepad, ink smudging from the pressure of his grip, a woman's fists clenched tight enough to whiten her knuckles, her jaw set with a fury that mirrored Jamal's own, her gaze burning with a newfound respect that lit the room. Langston tried one last gasp, his voice a broken croak as he pounded his podium, his wiry features contorted in desperation, his crisp suit creasing as his control slipped away like sand through his trembling fingers, his earlier smirk now a ghost. He's conning you with fairy tales, he screamed, but his words cracked, swallowed by the crowd's jeers and hisses that rose like a wave from the gallery, drowning his fading authority in a sea of contempt that flooded the space like a tide. Judge Henshaw's gavel crashed, her face grim as she fought to regain control, her stern voice cutting through the din like a blade through smoke, her silver hair trembling with the force of her command, her earlier impatience replaced by a grudging awe that flickered in her eyes. Deliberate, she ordered, her tone heavy with the weight of what had unfolded, her glasses slipping as she glared at Langston with a look that could have melted iron, her earlier haste now a bitter memory swallowed by the moment's gravity. The jury filed out, but their faces told the story, anger etched into every line, their earlier nods replaced by a burning resolve that lit the room like a wildfire, their steps heavy with purpose as they moved with a quiet fury. 8 minutes later, they returned, the foreperson standing tall, her voice ringing like a clarion call through the hushed space, clear and unyielding as steel forged in fire, her stance a pillar of defiance. Not guilty, she declared, each syllable a thunderclap that shook the walls, her eyes meeting Langston's with a fire of her own, her words a verdict that echoed like a gunshot through the room. The gallery detonated, cheers erupting like a dam bursting, sobs mingling with Shouts of triumph. A reporter's camera flashing as the moment seared into history. The sound a cacophony of vindication that rattled the windows and shook the room to its core, a roar that seemed to shake the very foundation of the courthouse. Henshaw dismissed the case, her gavel's sharp crack a final note in the uproar. Her voice icy as she turned to the prosecutor, her stern eyes pinning him like a specimen under glass. Her earlier haste move it along, now a bitter irony that hung in the air like smoke, replaced by a weight of realization. Mr. Langston, she added, her tone cutting through the noise like a whip, her silver hair framing a face taut with authority. This court's referring you and Officer Tate to the DOJ possible constitutional violations and evidence tampering. The jury applauded, their fury a weapon turned on the prosecutor and cop, their claps echoing like gunfire through the room, a resounding rejection of the lies they'd been fed, their hands slamming together in a rhythm of retribution that pulsed through the space like a heartbeat of justice, their eyes blazing with a mix of triumph and rage. A spectator uploaded the scene: Langston's smug taunts, Tate's faltering lies, Jamal's revelation of the missing file with the pocket watch going viral before the dust settled, racking up views as the internet ignited with outrage and awe. The clips spreading like wildfire across screens, a testament to a boy's brilliance that turned the tide. Jamal clutched the pocket watch, Isaiah's spirit alive in his victory, a quiet strength pulsing through him as he stood amidst the uproar, his gray jacket a banner of resilience against the chaos, his granddad's lessons a shield that had broken the case wide open. Tate's testimony lay in ruins, Langston's downfall a reckoning, a seismic shift, felt in every corner of the courtroom, his wiry frame erased by a teen they'd underestimated, his cross-examination shaking the room to its foundation with one missing file. Justice had roared through Jamal's stand, and the echoes reverberated far beyond the walls of Richmond, a prodigy's precision rewriting the script in a single, shattering moment. Edward Langston stumbled from the courtroom, his wiry frame hunched like a broken reed, his crisp suit soaked with sweat and creased beyond recognition as he shoved through a swarm of reporters, their microphones jabbing like spears, their shouts a relentless barrage that battered his ears like hail on a shattered roof. The viral clip: his smug taunts, Tate's crumbling lies, Jamal's bombshell about the missing file hit millions of views overnight, trending as #LangstonLies, a digital wildfire that consumed his name. By dawn, the Department of Justice launched a probe, peeling back a festering wound, doctored reports, payoffs to Tate, a decade of framing defendants to pad his conviction stats, each revelation a nail in his coffin. The Richmond DA fired him on live TV, his law license revoked in a hearing that drew a jeering crowd, their boos a deafening chorus that drowned out his pleas. Their faces twisted with contempt as they waved signs reading justice for Jamal. "You've defiled the law," the bar president spat, her voice slicing through the silence as Langston sat, head bowed, his once wiry confidence reduced to ash and scorn, his crisp suit a mockery of his former authority that now hung like a shroud. Lawsuits swarmed, families' head railroaded, like Isaiah's, draining his accounts to nothing. His sleek townhouse seized to fund restitution, the gavel's echo a final toll that reverberated through his empty life like a death knell. His wife walked out, her parting words cold as she packed their car with bags. "I won't live with a crook." Alone in a rented trailer, Langston faced federal charges 4th and 6th Amendment violations, evidence tampering, up to 20 years. The final blow came when his law firm erased his name from its history, a press release branding him a disgrace to the profession, his legacy scrubbed like a stain from a wall. He sat in the dim light, a broken husk, the pocket watch haunting his dreams, a boy's quiet precision that had stripped him of everything: power, love, pride. The world turned away, leaving him a pariah, his ruin a stark warning carved in digital fire and jail cell steel, his once smug grin extinguished by the weight of his own deceit, a shadow fading into oblivion under the tide of justice had mocked. Jamal Carter stepped out into Richmond's cool dusk, the pocket watch cool against his palm, reporters swarming but held back by his mom, Denise, her calloused hands pushing through the crowd with fierce pride, her eyes glistening with tears of relief and triumph, her voice trembling with emotion as she steadied herself against the onslaught. She pulled him into a tight embrace, her breath warm against his cheek as she whispered, "Isaiah's cheering up there, baby, you did him proud." Jamal nodded, his throat tight as he fought back the sting in his eyes, the weight of his granddad's loss mingling with the victory, his gray jacket damp. With the day's sweat and resolve, a quiet testament to his fight that clung to him like a second skin. I kept my promise, ma for him. For us, he said, his voice steady despite the lump in his chest, his words a vow renewed in the fading light. Offers flooded an overnight Georgetown law sent a full scholarship, civil rights. Groups begged him to lead youth rallies, their letters piling up like a testament to his quiet power. He chose law school, vowing to fight for granddads like Isaiah, broken by a system's neglect, his resolve a fire that burned bright. No more lost like him, he told Denise, clutching the pocket watch as they sat on their weathered stoop, the night air heavy with the scent of pine and rain-soaked earth, the city's hum a distant lullaby that carried hope on its wings. The neighborhood erupted in celebration, cookouts spilled into the streets. A mural of Jamal with the pocket watch rose on a concrete wall near the east end. Kids chanting "Watch Boy" as they raced past, their laughter a melody of hope that lifted the night like a rising tide, their voices a chorus of possibility. He spoke at a community vigil, his voice steady and resonant, carrying the weight of Isaiah's legacy like a torch through the shadows, his words a beacon for the crowd that filled the lot to the edges, their faces lit by candlelight. This isn't just my win, it's ours. Isaiah's watch says we don't break, we rise, he declared, his tone firm yet warm, his jacket a symbol of resilience against the odds that had tried to bury him. The crowd roared, their cheers shaking the trees, but Jamal stayed grounded, the pain of losing his granddad tempering the triumph, keeping his feet planted firm on the cracked pavement, his resolve a quiet fire that burned bright against the darkness, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames. He wasn't a hero, yet just a boy who'd turned grief into grit, the pocket watch a marker now etched into Richmond's asphalt and hearts, its ticking a rhythm of justice reclaimed. It wasn't about fame. It was about the vow head kept under that courtroom's unforgiving glare, and the battles head yet to wage with the law as his weapon, his precision a light piercing the shadows that lingered still. Jamal's victory sparked a firestorm. TV panels dissected Langston's corruption. Protests swelled outside the courthouse demanding Tate's badge, their voices a thunderous chorus of change that rattled the city like a quake, shaking the foundations of a system long unchallenged. The pocket watch became a rallying cry, activists waving replicas, chanting, "Time tells the truth." Their signs a sea of defiance that flooded the streets, their shouts echoing through the night. The DOJ reopened Isaiah's case, exposing a web of prison corruption, dozens of convictions overturned, families reunited with tears and clenched fists, their cries of relief a symphony that reverberated through the East End like a long-awaited dawn breaking over a shadowed land. Jamal met with freed men, sharing Isaiah's story, his quiet strength igniting hope and resolve, his words a spark in their weary eyes that flickered into flame, their hands gripping his ingratitude. "Keep ticking," he said, the pocket watch glinting like a beacon in the dim light of their gathering. Online, the story exploded. #JamalWatch trending, comments flooding in. "He's a genius. Systems gotta burn. The digital roar a testament to a boy's stand that shook the world awake. He shunned fame but spoke once more, at a rally. They said I was guilty till I made MC. We all can." His words lingered, a challenge to a world stirring from slumber, a call that reverberated through the night like a distant drumbeat, urging action. Langston's fall cracked the foundation, but the fight stretched on just beginning, a ripple growing into a wave that promised more battles to come. Jamal Carter stood by Isaiah's old workbench, the pocket watch in hand. Richmond's dusk draping the cluttered garage in a soft, amber glow that softened the edges of the worn tools, casting shadows that danced like memories across the cracked concrete floor. He traced its tarnished surface, whispering, "We got it back, Granddad," his voice a quiet thread in the stillness, thick with pride and sorrow, a bittersweet warmth that filled the space like a long-held breath released. The city hummed beyond protests, fading into echoes, a mural of him with the pocket watch glowing under streetlights like a sentinel in the night. But here, it was just him and his granddad's memory. The promise kept a quiet flame in his chest that flickered with resilience and loss, a light that refused to dim despite the years. The pocket watch wasn't just metal. It was Isaiah's time, Jamal's compass, a symbol now bigger than one trial, its faint ticking a rhythm that echoed through The years of injustice like a heartbeat reborn, a testament to a fight reclaimed. Across town, Edward Langston sat in a cell, his wiry frame shrunken like a wilted stalk, his life stripped to concrete and steel, his crisp suit replaced by a threadbare jumpsuit that hung loose on his broken form, a mockery of the authority he'd once wielded. A radio crackled with Jamal's rally speech, the boy's calm precision a specter. He couldn't escape, his voice a haunting echo through the bars that caged his shattered spirit, a reminder of the ruin he'd sown. Langston's hands trembled, had lost everything. Career, love, freedom, a kid. Head dismissed as nothing, a prodigy armed with a missing file and a will of iron that had unraveled his world like a thread pulled from a tapestry. The world had turned, leaving him a relic of a system exposed, his ruin a lesson. Carved in viral bites and prison walls, a shadow fading into oblivion under the weight of his own deceit, his once smug grin extinguished by the truth head. Mocked, buried beneath the rubble of his own lies. But Jamal's story didn't tie up neat. The workbench stood weathered, Georgetown law loomed ahead like a distant horizon, yet the system towered cracked but stubborn, a beast still snarling in the shadows, its roots deep and unyielding despite the fissures he'd carved. Had won a piece of justice, not the whole war, the victory a stepping stone. Rather than a finish line, a spark rather than a blaze. As he stepped away, the pocket watch in his pocket, questions gnawed like thorns. In his mind, sharp and persistent, how many Isaiahs still suffered, silenced by corrupt hands that twisted truth into chains? How many kids faced courts that judged before they heard, their fates sealed by haste? The mural shone Jamal, unbowed, a beacon, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. He paused, gazing at the skyline through the garage's cracked window, the weight of his granddad's loss pressing down like a stone, a fire smoldering in his veins that refused to die, its heat a quiet promise of battles yet to come, a resolve that burned brighter with every step into the fading light. The city pulsed, headlines shifting, voices softening, but the pocket watch's call lingered, urgent and unanswered, a quiet hum beneath the noise that whispered of more to fight for, a rhythm that refused to fade. If this hit you, the narrator would cut in, raw and insistent, breaking the silence like a clarion call. Don't let it fade. Share it. Speak it. Fight it. Jamal unraveled a case. With one file, what can you unravel with yours? Justice isn't served, it's seized, day by damn day, and it starts with us. The screen would fade, Jamal's silhouette stark against the horizon, the pocket watches glint a spark in the dark, a promise unbroken through the storm that had shaken the courtroom to its core. He walked on, steps firm, purpose raw, the next fight brewing in his bones like a gathering tempest, his gray jacket a quiet banner of defiance that stood against the shadows. Langston rotted, a shadow of a system cracked open, his legacy dust in the wind that blew through the streets like a forgotten whisper. Jamal carried Isaiah's spirit, a light for a world half awake, his quiet precision a call to rise that echoed beyond the trial, a beacon piercing the gloom. The story ended, open hope flickering, shadows looming, leaving one truth hanging. The fight wasn't over, and the pocket watch ticked on, whispering it had more time to keep.